politics. That, to me, that's what
Never
it is.
as dirty as the States.
All right, let's move on. Budding out contraband. Bill C-10, the Conservative government has passed this, and what it will do is it will allow them the tools, or the provinces the tools they need in order to go after contraband tobacco. We hear that the stats are as high as over 40% of the tobacco consumed is contraband tobacco, which means taxes aren't getting paid. There's no health sort of regulation in there as well. So what this will do is give the police more tools in order to go after this. Are we going to start seeing raids on reserves now for people cracking down?
You're going down a very dangerous, slippery slope if you're going to see a raid on a reserve. That is their territory, and there's no way they operate under their own set of rules.
It may not happen there, Ron.
Okay,
it'll happen outside of the reserve.
Once you're
and
off the reserve,
and it has to happen.
I know.
Do you understand, Ron, that between $700 million and $1.2 billion is lost in tax revenue?
Yes, and I appreciate that.
Yes.
We're also losing tax revenue from polluters who are not paying for the extra kind of environmental damage that they're doing into the community.
It's easier to get money back from, Jessica.
Much easier for the Conservatives to go after a culturally sensitive group within
that is ridiculous.
Heritage rights, historical traditions.
We're talking about cigarettes that cause cancer that others around us don't want us to be smoking in the first place. What we're talking about is the Conservative government's inability to be able to actually raise taxes in an appropriate way to spend on appropriate services. So you think that they should be allowed? You think that they should be allowed? No, you're apples and oranges, Jessica. We're talking about cigarettes.
It still makes fruit salad.
Can I just say, if I were to go up to the reserve, buy a transport trailer, truckload of cigarettes, drive off the reserves, come down here, sell all these cigarettes to all the variety stores
without tax?
In Hamilton, and then that's wrong. And that's where the government should step in, and that's where we need to stop this type of
people pussyfooting around the law.
I would hope that that's what they're trying to do around here.
Ron, too many people go on the reserve and do this, and it's wrong.
They do it all the time.
They do it all the time. That is correct, and it's wrong. So why are we allowing people to do this?
We shouldn't be allowing them to.
Whose responsibility is the contraband tobacco once it leaves the reserve? Whose responsibility is it to monitor it and watch what's going on?
It should be the government's responsibility. Once it is off the reserve, they cannot go on the reserve and tell the manufacturers of...
no one is suggesting that they are going to go on the reserve. We are looking, and with Bill C-10, we're looking to prosecute and even imprison after the second offense. And I think that is where First Nations...
We're going somewhere completely weird here. I mean, essentially, we're talking about a legal drug that is being sold.
That should have a tax on top of it to pay for the health care, to look after the people that get cancer.
All of a sudden, the Conservatives are very interested in raising taxes.
We're interested in getting the money that we should be getting. We should already be getting that money.
We're not looking at higher earners who, in fact, should be paying their fair share.
It's the honest store owners, the honest variety store operator that is suffering here because they're losing that. They do not sell contraband cigarettes. They're selling regular tax.
But we're also targeting a cultural group here, making
we're not targeting them. We're targeting the people that are taking advantage of a situation.
I heard stats today that 49 of the 50 illegal contraband producing factories, whatever you want to say, are on reserves.
Yes.
So at the end of the day, what's happening on the reserve is one thing, but how do we stop it from getting off the reserve into the schools?
And Scott, did you hear the other statistic looking at the cigarettes sold on reserve in 2011, 2012 in Ontario? The numbers suggested that every smoking person on that reserve would have been smoking up to 70 cigarettes a day and 100 cigars, which clearly they're not doing. So those cigarettes and cigars are going elsewhere.
Have you ever driven through there?
No.
And have seen all the little cigarette, trailers?
So are they selling those all to everybody on the reserve? I mean, obviously they're producing way more than they're consuming on the reserve. So how do you police that? I mean, you said we can't go on the reserve, but what if the reserve's producing?
It's time
but what if the reserve is producing more than it can consume and it's selling it to outside markets?
Well, then
I'm still having difficulty with thinking that this is more important to deal with
than in
It's a lot of
fact
tax money.
progressive taxation across the entire nation.
You're dealing with a different issue, Jessica.
It's not the. It's
Don't you
a
think-
different
very
issue.
different. We're talking about the taxation
what
of
is being done
cigarettes
is
and the
that
number of
a
people that are not
stereotyped
paying
image
taxes.
is being.
It is not about a
it's-
stereotype.
Oh, I
It is
don't
about
think
all
so.
the other
No, I
people
don't think
off
we're
of the
going down
reserve
the
that have no
conservative
native blood
benefit.
in them.
It's not
going on
dealing
the
with
reserve
taxation
and
as an
taking
overall
advantage
issue,
of
and
somebody
it-
else's tax.
absolutely not.
You know,
Let me ask you this, Jessica. Doesn't taxation, increased taxation, though, just drive more people to the contraband? I mean, if you're taxing everything
Well, again,
more.
That's exactly what happens. Cigarettes are
As
$12.
soon as I
Well,
put
they're
the price in.
$12,
And then they're
that,
$6
we're
for
trying
putters.
that Tara wants
stop
to
people.
talk about.
That's the
We're
brand.
trying to stop people from smoking and stop young people from picking up the habit. That's why they're as expensive as they are.
Yeah.
Do you think this is going to be as cut and dry as coming up with a new bill?
Oh, absolutely not.
Oh,
you know that there are going to be issues for years over this, but somebody has to take a stand now and start.
All right, let's move on. Harper's War, we've certainly seen lots of this in the news lately. The government easily passed the motion this week saying that, of course, they'd be joining the coalition.